Génération sacrifiée, c'est une expression souvent utilisée. En tout cas, on a un peu peur pour notre avenir.
On essaye de vraiment limiter au maximum le risque de contamination, mais voilà, le risque n'est pas de zéro.
C'est notre première année, du coup on aurait aimé la vivre comme tous les autres, mais bon, c'est comme ça.
Welcome to a new edition of France in Focus. I'm Nadia Sharbi, and this week you find us overlooking Paris's famed Sorbonne University as we take stock of how the COVID crisis has affected higher education. Whether embarking on their studies, hoping for a crucial internship, or graduating amid a historic downturn, French students are facing a whole new learning curve, one that's unlikely to deliver on all its promises.
The lecture hall at this university near Paris is so packed, some students are sitting on the floor. It's a situation that's causing concern.
We're trying to limit the risk of contamination, but the risk is not zero.
Voilà, le risque n'est pas de zéro.
And yet, the university has put in place distance learning.
Here, we've been able to halve class sizes, and students can watch lessons online from their homes.
This university in Paris has taken a different approach. Here, all students are attending classes in person. Social distancing is simply recommended by the government Ministry for Higher Education.
I don't really like this situation because my parents aren't in good health and I don't want to pass it on to them when I come home at night.
Outside the lecture halls, COVID-19 is impacting students in other ways. Finding an internship can feel like a lost cause, and study abroad programs have been put on hold.
Here are the guidebooks that I bought for New York, but unfortunately they're not going to come in useful straight away.
21-year-old Louise is a student at the prestigious Sciences Po school in Paris. She chose her course largely because of an exchange program with New York University, NYU. But it's been cancelled.
I found myself staying in Paris. All my plans have fallen through and my New York dream has disappeared.
Louise's tutors in Paris have hurriedly put together online courses. There's only a faint possibility NYU might reopen its doors to students from France in January.
It's the year everyone dreams about. Everyone is really disappointed and we don't even know there'll be an alternative or another exchange program for us. I don't think we'll be able to go where we had planned even next year or the years after.
Louise has managed to find a part-time internship at a media production company, while she waits, hoping to one day pursue her American dream.
To tell us more about how the French higher education system is handling the health crisis and the possible long-term consequences, I've come to meet Elno Hérier. He's the Vice President of the National Students' Union, UNEF. Elno Hérier, hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for being with us. First, on a practical note, from the perspective of both health and education, how are French universities handling this situation?
They're not very well organised. For a start, social distancing rules mean that we should be keeping an empty seat next to each student during lectures, and reducing the number of students in lecture halls isn't easy. There are no nationwide guidelines for universities, so they're left to manage without any added resources. So the start of this school year has been pretty chaotic, as universities have trouble respecting guidelines that would help prevent high contagion levels.
Now, given the deep changes that the crisis has brought about, not least on the job market, are many young people second-guessing their chosen area of studies or even perhaps higher education itself?
Absolutely. There are plenty of students who are questioning higher education, and that's especially true when it comes to professionalized training, because they can see that getting the necessary job experience or internships might not be possible. So those students tend to shift to more mainstream studies, which only serves to create a bottleneck there. And then there's also those who are preparing to enter the job market or who know the time to get a job is nearing, and they're thinking, okay, this isn't the year, because experts say the job market is going to be very tough for for at least the next 7 to 8 months. Those people are looking for another solution, such as extending their studies.
Of course, being a student doesn't come cheap at the best of times, but has this crisis made matters even worse for those who were already struggling?
It clearly has. Already in previous years, student poverty had been on the rise, and obviously this year it's far worse. In France, barely a third of students benefit from state-sponsored scholarships and are awarded a monthly allowance. That means 2/3 of students rely on their families or on student jobs. But this crisis has hit families too, and student jobs are even harder to find. So we don't know how some students will make it through this year.
On ne sait pas comment certains vont s'en sortir cette année.
And what about foreign students who come to study in France? What's the situation for them?
C'est encore pire pour les étudiants étrangers puisque
It's even worse for them, because on top of what French students are going through right now, foreign students face extra challenges anyway. They also have the threat of travel restrictions, with each country having its own rules. And if and when they do finally reach France, they'll face an uphill battle with problems like job instability and different teaching methods which are tougher for them.
C'est-à-dire les problèmes de précarité, de pédagogie qui sont encore plus importants pour eux.
Given the necessary adjustments with a lot of classes going online, are students even getting their money's worth?
Not necessarily, no. True, they might still graduate, they might complete their school year, but from the standpoint of what and how they'll be learning, then no, they won't be getting the full package, because they'll be taking at least half of their classes online. In fact, in some universities, it's 100% of classes that will be going online, which means students won't get the opportunity to ask questions or debate an issue further with their lecturer. It's nothing like the real deal. They won't be learning at the usual pace or with the usual resources. So will they get their money's worth? It depends on each student's expectations, but if it's about the actual studies, then no.
Does this situation make for a very lonely experience, perhaps?
I think so. At least it makes for a very individualistic experience, especially for those embarking on their first year of studies this year, who never got a taste of higher education before the crisis hit. For them, clearly it will be a lonely time, whether that's because they're sitting alone in front of their computer or isolated in lecture rooms because of social distancing. Yes, it's an issue we're concerned about because it's not the kind of university we want. We believe that university is about working together. It's a collective experience, so it's going to be difficult this year.
Thank you very much for having spoken to us.
Thank you.
Now, as any graduate knows, the student experience is about far more than long hours in lecture halls. In fact, many of the life skills acquired during this time come down to one pursuit: socialising. And while the government has called on students to curb their enthusiasm in the name of the greater good, many are keen to let off steam and enjoy their newfound independence, to the point that clandestine student parties are now being blamed for many new virus clusters.
In Lyon, a large group of students sing and dance in close proximity, no mask in sight. Almost as if the coronavirus pandemic didn't exist. A smaller crowd in Paris, but once again, no social distancing. Many wear masks, but not always correctly.
I try to wear it as much as possible, but it's hot inside. We don't wear it while we drink, but we're being careful. It's not like I'm going to hug my grandparents tomorrow.
Social distancing's impossible here because the bar's too small, but at least most people are wearing masks.
Inside, students relish the in-person social interactions that are no longer a part of school life, with most university courses now online.
It's our only way to socialize, given we don't see each other in class anymore.
I just moved to Paris, and in order to meet new people, I'm seeking that social connection. I don't just want to be on the computer all day.
For student groups, it's a complicated dilemma. These associations organize events where masks are mandatory, but enforcing the rules is not easy. This despite the fact that young people are currently driving the uptick in coronavirus cases, a trend confirmed by the rate of positive tests. Amongst 20 to 29-year-olds, an average of 207 out of 100,000 people have been infected, a higher average compared to other age groups. As a result, more than a dozen clusters have been reported on university campuses. In the city of Reims, testing was ramped up after a student party led to 23 new infections. Health experts say students must be more vigilant.
The message we must send is this. Students are spreading COVID. Even if they don't have symptoms, they must protect themselves in order to protect others, including their families.
Cities across the country are taking action. Student parties are now banned in Marseille and Bordeaux. In Rennes, bars must close at 10 p.m., but students there say that won't stop social events.
Student life in Rennes and these strict rules don't go hand in hand.
Now we're just gonna have to party in small apartments. It'll be even more cramped. Ultimately, that's worse.
The early bar closures in Rennes are temporary, but many fear the measure will be extended if the pandemic worsens.
And with that, we leave this edition. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.
Special events.
It's one of those events you cannot ignore. Every 4 years, all eyes are on the White House. Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Who will America pick as its next president? Will the Republican incumbent stay in office, or will his Democratic rival unseat him? Throughout the campaign, our correspondents and guests will discuss the issues at the heart of the election.
Follow election results in our special edition beginning on the 3rd of November on France 24.
As a field reporter, you really get a sense of just how important it is to be able to go and check out things for yourselves on the ground. One example which stays in my mind is when I went up to northeastern Nigeria with my colleague Jonathan Walsh, and we wanted to do a report about the impact the Islamist group Boko Haram had left on the communities there. And we were being told by the Nigerian army for months that they had won the ground war, that the militants no longer posed a threat. And as soon as we were in the zone for ourselves, we could see that that was just clearly not the case. There were some roads that our local fixer, our producer, was absolutely terrified to take for fear of being kidnapped. We were flown out to enclaves of land by the UN by helicopter because we couldn't drive there. People were too afraid to go back to their homes a kilometre away because there was still fighting going on. And we even located one active Boko Haram member living in a refugee camp who told us he was still in regular contact with fighters out in the woods. So that really highlighted for me how important it is to go and see for yourselves what's happening and not believe what's in official statement, press releases or communiques.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.